Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ma'am. Before we proceed to our main topic, let me introduce my name. I'm Ramon Bukoy, together with Jayan Enriquez. For today's session, we will be discussing to you about the situational context using generative situation. Next. So what is generative situation? Generative situation is a situation which the teacher set up in the lesson in order to generate several example sentences of a structure. Meaning to say that, for example, in your classroom, the teacher itself, before they introduce their topic, sometimes they usually give kind of situations, and the students are start to analyze what's in that situation. In situational context, it describes the reason why something is occurring and the appropriate behavior and actions associated with the situation. It is one of the types of context that influence communication. Context is situation or the circumstances or the specific settings in which an event occurs. Next. The following are the advantages of situational context by using the generative situation. So first is the permits presentation of a wide range of language items. Meaning to say that the situation serves as a means of contextualizing the language, and this helps it clarify the meaning. Second is the language in context. Language in a context is what surrounds a word or piece of text. In order to understand what words mean, we have to know something about the situation where they are used. In print, a word, phrase, or sentences has other text around it. This helps the reader to understand the piece in question. Third is the situation explains meaning. As I said a while ago, in order to contextualize the language, this helps to clarify the meaning itself. Next is idea for inductive approach. Rule for discovery. So inductive approach, when we hear the word inductive approach, we start making observations or gathering data or information, seeking patterns in those observations and theorizing about the patterns. For example, as I said a while ago, a teacher itself in the classroom. In the given situation, students are start to analyze and seeking patterns or giving some hints and that is theorizing their patterns to be able to generate several examples of sentences. Students are active partners, co-creators. So students are becoming more interested in what the teacher set up the lesson. More memorable than simple explanation. This makes it less dry than a traditional grammar explanation. Moreover, the situation I feel chosen is likely to be more memorable than a simple explanation. Lastly, the high rate of efficacy. The word efficacy meaning the effectiveness. The effectiveness of a strategy that being used by the teacher, and that is the giving situation. Next. So next is the disadvantages. These are the following disadvantages. There are two. First is a time-consuming compared to presentation. Secondly, requires a resourceful teacher like stories and pictures. If students are in the wrong mindset, they're unlikely to do kind of cognitive work involved in the induction of grammar rules. This kind of presentation also takes more time than an explanation. time spent on presenting language is inevitably time spent at the expense of language practice. And it is arguable that what most students need is not the presentation of rules but opportunities to practice them. Thus, the generative situation loses points in terms of its economy, and it also requires a resourceful teacher who not only is able to endure situations that generate several structurally identical sentences, but who has also the means or the time to prepare the necessary visual aids. So it is more time consuming than the presentation. In addition, why is this situational context is important? Teaching grammar through context will help learners perceive the structures of the language effectively. If learners are given grammatical structures in context, they will be able to master the language better. Teaching grammar in context will help the learners to acquire new grammar structures and forms. So that's all.
Good day everyone. Once again, I'm Jayan Enriquez. Today I am going to discuss the example about teaching grammar in situational context using generative situation. Teaching should have done using a generative situation. The situation can be introduced using board drawings, magazine, pictures, and so on. The teacher asks students what and they need to go to Australia and write down their points on the board. So, the above description represents a type of grammar presentation procedure within which there is a scope from any variation. So the situation could emerge out of the text the students have read or simply listened to. However, it is established the situation generates several examples of the targeted grammar item. The teacher explains that Andy made no preparations. She asked students to imagine what happened and construct the story. The teacher elicits students to answer the question on should have VPP or verb preposition phrase. So, word examples are know, been, had, gone, won, done, and lost. So, the teacher aims to involve the learners more actively in the class language. So, the teacher gives examples and the students works out the rules. The teacher writes down the sentences and asks students working in pairs. To add further sentences, individual students read sentences aloud, and the teacher reminds them of the pronunciation of should have. The teacher asks students to make sentences from individual to integrate. So, in this stage, students picks up grammatical and lexical information easily from the written form. So, in the example, the teacher makes sure that the student's understanding of should have done. However, this is no guarantee that learners will formulate the correct rule. So it depends on the learner's command of terminology. So I guess that would be all. Thank you.